Okay, what are we doing here? So after a long period of time of not playing guitar, I started playing again. I bought a nice guitar and I've been playing about 3 months, but I found this old guitar in the back of the closet, and it might have been my old guitar from high school, and it might have been a guitar I got my one of my two sons back when they were in high school. But anyway, I pulled it out after I bought mine and I was like, wow, this thing's a piece of junk. And then I looked at it a little bit closer and I thought, maybe it's not. So it is a Drifter. And the model in here, you probably can't see that, but anyway, I looked it up, and it's a Drifter model DF130. It was made in 1976, according to the serial number. There's a huge guitar boom back then. And it was made by the Continental Music Company out of Oakbrook, Illinois. So I looked into them, and what those guys actually were into was they made brass and woodwind instruments for schools, middle schools, junior highs, and high schools. So since there was a huge guitar boom back in the 70s, 60s and 70s, they got into making guitars for 10 years for schools. And this one is actually made in Korea. So that's what we have here. And it appears to be all plywood top and sides. Okay. So here is the problem I've found with the guitar. The bridge is lifted. And this guitar's been sitting in a case. It actually came with a fairly nice, not super nice, but it's a felt line case. The bridge is lifted, and I'm not a luthier, but I'm going to try to fix this. I mean, eventually even 50-year-old guitar is going to lift. The bridge, and I can't tell, I haven't looked at it yet, but looks like there's plenty of height on that saddle. There's no cracks in it. I'm looking at the edge, and well, you can't tell from this image, but take my word for it. I don't believe this top's solid because I can see the plies. It's a plywood top, which is fine. They're thin veneers. It's a student guitar built to be rugged. So I am gonna remove this bridge and glue it back on. So I have my notebook with some notes about what I'm doing. Bridge is lifted. I have some measuring tools. I am going to measure it as accurately as I can where this bridge is located and reinstall it right back where it goes. The other nice thing about this, the reason I don't think it's a piece of junk, actually has a truss rod adjustment, which is nice. So once the bridge is reinstalled, I'll try to get the neck straight. The neck does not appear to be warped. I've been looking down the neck, and I don't see that the neck is warped. So we'll see. There's still tension on these strings. So first thing is to get these strings off, and then evaluate that bridge. So I have a couple of putty knives, and I bought this one. It actually cheap Harbor Freight knife, but I took it to a stone, sharpening stone, and rounded this edge because it's just stamped metal. It had a sharp edge. I don't know if you can see, but I radiused the corners too, just to not gouge the top of the guitar. So I'm not completely new to woodworking. I am a cabinet maker as a hobby, and I did build these kitchen cabinets. So I do have some woodworking skills. So, but I still think just about anybody could probably do this. You know, take some patience, but I think it can be done. All right, so the first thing I want to do is get these old strings off and then take some measurements of where the bridge is. I added some blue painter's tape because I don't want to scratch the top any more than at all. And these are just barely in here, right under the very edge. So hopefully they don't mess up my measurement. I don't think the bridge is, but I don't want to have to, again, fight to get these in. So they're just barely in there. So you don't need to see me take guitar strings off. I'm sure if you play guitar, you've done it a million times. So I'll come back here in a second once they're off. All right, I got the tuning pegs off, and I labeled them 1 through 6 as the string. I'm not sure if it matters exactly that they go in the exact same spot, but I'm going to put them back the way they came out, and I kept the strings so that I can have the string gauge measured and maybe the type of material and try to put the same strings back on. I don't know if these are the factory strings or somebody changed them out or this is what should go on it, but that's what I'm going to do for now. Okay, I was making some progress, but I found after reaching inside the sound hole using an inspection mirror that this guitar, I'll bring it up so you can see it, has these two little, I don't know, mother of pearl or something standoffs. This bridge is actually bolted on, and looking from the inside with the inspection mirror, I can see 2 small nuts in there holding it on. So this one actually looks like it's ready to pop off right here. So I might fiddle with those a little bit, but I definitely am going to look for a very small socket that fits that and see if I can unscrew those, because this bridge is not going to come off. This is probably the only thing that kept the bridge from coming off completely. So I am at a standstill until I figure out how to do that. In the meantime, before I even do that, because I want to do that, is this is a filthy ruler, but it's accurate. I'm going to take some measurements on this guitar and write it down in my notes and make sure that I get this bridge back on relative to where it's supposed to be. Okay, thanks, and see you in a minute when I get some measurements done and figure out what I'm going to do about those nuts. Okay, talk in a little while. Okay, so I've measured from, and this thing's interesting, I'll show it to you in just a second, but I have to measure from the center of this fret, because that's where the string actually hits. They have a fret way up here by the nut. That is the edge. And from the center of that fret to the center of the saddle, I'm measuring in 64ths, is exactly 25 and 32 64ths. I've measured this on both sides, so it's exactly 25.5 inches. So I'll write that down. And that, I think that's the scale length. But if you look here, see what they did? And I noticed that too. So you can't really adjust the string height here by this nut, by at least the string height on the first fret, this being the first fret, by lowering this. It actually comes across at an angle, and this is the basically the nut edge. And so there's no adjustment to this fret. Okay. 25.5 inches scale length. Okay, what a pain. I got them out. Took a while. But here they are. 7/32. One of them came out no problem. Here are the sockets. And what happened was there's washers between them and the wood. And one of them, the washer was flat, and the other one, the washer was curled up. So I couldn't get the socket on there. So I had to take matching socket. I don't know if you can tell, but anyway, this thing has a little chrome, it has a lip, which yeah, these nuts were very shallow, thin, and I couldn't get enough bite on the edge. So I took this one to, you see how sharp the edge is? I took it, filed to it, and I filed it flat so that it it could bite, and I got it off, and that's what it took. Okay, back to the bridge here in a second. Okay, so the bridge is all taped up. I don't think this blue painter tape is going to have any ill effects to the finish on this old scratched up guitar, but I don't know if you want to use this on an expensive classical guitar that maybe has a shellac finish. And I have all the parts that I saved, the nuts that came off. So I think what I'm going to do is, at least from what I've read, that they should have used some kind of hide glue or fish glue, is slowly start prying, and maybe with a piece of paper that's wet, try to get some water in there, maybe loosen up that hide glue or fish glue if they used it, and see if I can't slowly take my time getting that off. So I'll be back, put a little water in there, maybe I can slide it in with a piece of paper. Okay, I put a few drops of water in there to maybe loosen up that glue, and didn't need it at all. I just was taking a precaution. I don't want to break this bridge, but anyway, I pried on a little bit. I bought this putty knife at Harbor Freight for $3. I had one here, but thought I needed a couple. I seen some YouTube videos, tried to get it off, but this thing came off like nothing. So anyway, there it is. It's off. I'll try to sand this and clean this up. And okay, so I can see what happened on the first inspection. A couple of things happened, look like. I don't know if you can see this, but I can see the shiny finish under that glue. So they finished the top and then glued on top of this hard finish, but so it didn't stick. And then it looks like they clamped it too hard. There's hardly any glue there or here. So I think what happened was, you know, when you're trying to bond two pieces of glue together, two pieces of wood together, if you squeeze it so much that you squeeze all the glue out from in between, well, now you don't have any glue in there in the joint, and you just squeezed it out, and there's very, very thin layer of glue. So there's two things here. For one, there is no glue, very little glue on here. So that's good. I'll have less scraping. And then the bridge has a little bit of glue. So I think that's what happened. So let me clean this up, and try and reset it. So lack of glue in the joint that made it fail, and they glued onto a lacquer finish. That's not going to stick. All right, so now I got to get down to the wood here and proper amount of glue, and should be fine. At least it'll hold.